As usual, we are gathered here today to listen to another dispensation of the Lord Buddha's teaching. Before we commence, let us remind ourselves how fortunate we are. In this infinitely large universe, where there is no limit, there is no end, the beginning is yet to be found. Today you and I, we are here listening to the Lord Buddha's teaching, comprehending what it is He taught us to end this endless rebirth cycle. We are possibly the most fortunate beings alive at this moment in time. Taking a moment to reflect on how fortunate we are to have received the gift of Dhamma because of the perfect one, the undefeated one, the undefeatable one, the unvanquished one, the omniscient one, the perfect one, the supremely enlightened one, the Supreme Buddha. Let us all take a moment to pay homage to the Supreme Buddha before we commence this sermon. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. And as usual, before we begin, let us take a moment to observe the 5 precepts, reminding ourselves once again that yet again we are finding ourselves in this situation where we are having to observe the precepts. Let us never consider this a right, but rather a privilege. There may have been situations, instances, occurrences where in the past week where you may have not been able to abide by the precepts that you vowed to abide by. This is the nature of the mind where ignorance and attachment prevails. So, in the hope that this is the last time you ever have to observe the 5 precepts, in the hope and determination that may the virtue entailed within these precepts be part of the very fabric of my conscience, let us all take a moment to observe the precepts before we begin the sermon. And in order to do so, please recite after me and all together. Buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi. Dhammaṃ saranang gacchāmi. Sanghaṃ saranang gacchāmi. Dutiyampi buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi. Dutiyampi dhammaṃ saranang gacchāmi. Dutiyampi sanghaṃ saranang gacchāmi. Tatiyampi buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi. Tatiyampi dhammaṃ saranang gacchāmi. Tatiyampi sanghaṃ saranang gacchāmi. Saranagamaṇaṃ sampunnaṃ. Pānātipātā vēramaṇī sikkhapaдаṃ samādhiyāmi. Adinādānā vēramaṇī sikkhapaдаṃ samādhiyāmi. Kāmesu micchāchārā vēramaṇī sikkhapaдаṃ samādhiyāmi. Musāvādā vēramaṇī sikkhapadaṃ samādhiyāmi. Suramera majjapama datthana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Tisaranena saddhiṃ pañcasīlaṃ dhammang sadhukang surakkitaṃ katva appamadena sampadeta. Okay, you may now all be seated. And as usual, before we commence, let us take a moment to invite all the devas, brahmas, spirits, demons and the dead to join us. Many countless beings we will have come past in this infinitely long journey in samsara. Many innumerable beings who will have supported us, assisted us, helped us, shape our lives for the better. Those beings who are no longer with us, our ancestors who have predeceased us. This is now an opportunity for us to repay the debts that we owe them. There may have been many countless beings who will have done so much good to us. However, there may have been times where they might have committed unmeritorious deeds to save us from committing those very unmeritorious deeds. Think about your parents for a moment. As a result of that, today you have been born in the blissful plane and are able to understand and comprehend the Dhamma and find your path to salvation. However, because of the unmeritorious deeds that they had done, today they may be suffering in the 4 great hells. It is our duty and obligation to repay those debts by transferring the merits that we will be acquiring and accruing as through the course of this sermon. But before we do so, let us invite them to join us, to rejoice in this meritorious deed, as well as to listen to this Dhamma, to understand this Dhamma, to comprehend this Dhamma. If any of those beings have today been born in the woeful planes, may through rejoicing in the merits that we will all be acquiring today, they be able to redeem themselves from those woeful planes and be born in the blissful planes. And for all beings in the blissful planes, may they be able to listen to this Dhamma, understand it, comprehend it, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. So with that firm resolve, hope and determination in mind, as I now invite the devas, brahmas, spirits, demons and the dead, I would like you to extend that invitation in your hearts and in your minds out as far as you can in this 10,000 world systems, wherever they may be. May they join us, may they rejoice in this meritorious deed, and may they be able to listen to this Dhamma, understand it, comprehend it, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Samanta Chakravalesu Atra Gacchantu Devata Sadhamang Munirajasansa Sunantu Sagga Mokkadang Dhamma Savana Kalo Ayang Bhadanta Dhamma Savana Kalo Ayang Bhadanta Dhamma Savana Kalo Ayang Bhadanta. And also before we commence, let us take a moment to remind ourselves that in this infinitely long journey in samsara, we have not always had the privilege of associating noble ones. The Aryas who have shaped our lives today for the better, you will know for yourselves that you are not the people you used to be. Perhaps you will not even be able to recognize who you used to be a few months ago, a few years ago, and that is because of the Dhamma and nothing else. But it's this Dhamma that you are able to bring to your life because of the noble associations, the moral associations that you have been able to do in this birth. However, in this infinite long journey in samsara, we have not always had that opportunity. In fact, virtually all our relationships, all our associations have been with immoral, ignoble people. Such associations which defiled our minds with raga, dvesha, moha, desire, aversion and delusion. And having been blinded with avidya and tanha, ignorance and attachment, We may have offended, insulted, abused and slandered and desecrated the noble ones, the Aryas, the Samma Sambuddhas, the Pacceka Buddhas, the Arahata Buddhas, Anagamis, Sakrudagamis, Sotapannas, be they on the path of having attained the fruits, as well as the Buddha's ministry, the Sambuddha Shasana. For any words, actions or thoughts of abuse, slander and desecration that we might have directed towards them, either knowingly or unknowingly, today, the result of such actions may be that our progress in the Dhamma is hindered, is blocked, and we are not able to comprehend the Dhamma. So, before we all commence, let us be humble enough, with humility in mind, recognizing and accepting and acknowledging that this is who we used to be. Let us all take a moment to seek forgiveness for any thoughts, actions or words of abuse or slander that we might have directed towards the noble ones. And finally, before we commence, let us all make a firm resolve that through the course of this sermon, if there are any gaps in your understanding, in your knowledge, in your comprehension, which have kept you from attaining the state of Sotapanna, may through the course of this sermon you be able to fulfill those gaps. And for any among you who have already attained the state of Sotapanna, may through the course of this sermon you be able to acquire the understanding, the comprehension which is required to fulfill the subsequent stages and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. So with that firm resolve, that firm hope and the firm determination in mind, I invite you to prepare yourselves to listen to this sermon. Okay. Do you genuinely accept and acknowledge that the Dhamma has changed your lives? Are you saying that because it's the right thing to say? Do you see that in your own lives? Do you see the changes, the transformation? Not necessarily because other people say so, because that shouldn't be the test. You never know, they may be saying things just to get you on board, just to win brownie points, get you on their side. That's not right. That shouldn't be the test. You should know for yourselves if the Dhamma has changed your lives, has transformed your lives. And only you will know for yourself. Of course, other people might comment on how you have changed, the way you talk, the way you walk, the way you eat, sleep, drink, and the way you conduct yourself. But you could be acting up. This could all be a pretense. So only really you know what change the Dhamma has had on your lives. Isn't that right? Only you will know for certain. So I have a question for you then. Considering the change that you say it has had on your lives, are you convinced that if you progress this path, if you walk on this journey, if you continue this practice, you will get to where you want to get to? Are you convinced? Well, there's a question mark there. First of all, where do you want to get to? To answer the question, yes, this is going to get me where I want to get to, you must know where you want to get to. Nibbana is just a word, is it not? Nibbana. So it's just a word. Or others say Nirvana. It's just a word. I think of all the words there are in all the languages, there's one word that does not completely convey the meaning of what it's supposed to. And that one word is Nibbana. There is no other word that does not do justice to what meaning it's trying to convey. And that one word is Nibbana. Because no matter what we talk about, ladies and gentlemen, you know that the way we understand the world around us is through how we feel about things. Love is a feeling. Emotions, this is how we know the world around us. You know, you have a way, you feel something about everything. Everything you know of, you feel something about it. There's a way you feel about it. I say children, you have a way you feel about it. I say car, there's a way you feel about it. Your house, trees, birds, bees, there's a way you feel about it, isn't there? There's a way you feel about it. Sometimes you feel positive, sometimes you feel negative, sometimes you might just feel neutral. Because ultimately, whatever it is we talk about, the mind will only know Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. This is all the mind knows. Right? So our frequent and regular listeners will know what I'm talking about. Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana, that is all the mind knows. What Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana is Nibbana. What is the Rupa of Nibbana? Is it a Rupa, Shabda Rupa, Gandha Rupa, Rasa Rupa, Sparsha Rupa, or Dhamma Rupa? What Vedana is it? What Sanya it is? What Sankara it is? What Vijnana is it? You can't give it Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. Because if you were to do so, then Nibbana would be part of this world, would be part of our realm of existence. There's a way you feel about Nibbana, yes, but the way you feel about Nibbana is really not Nibbana. That's just how you feel about Nibbana. That's not what Nibbana is. There's a way you feel about it, but that's not what it is. It's like if there was a fish in a pond, and there's a turtle who's an amphibious animal, walks into the pond and says, "Hey, Mr. Fish, guess where I've just been?" And the fish asks, "Where?" "I've just been to land." "You've been where?" "Land." "What's that?" Now the turtle can make every effort to describe what land is. And yes, the fish can come to some kind of idea, some kind of conception about what land is, but he's never going to know it until one day this fish leaves water for good and actually goes on to land. So really, we are all fish in this huge pond. One day we will get out of this water and we will get to land. That day, you will not be able to describe Nibbana, or rather land, in the words of a fish. Think about it. Do you think in the fish language there are words to describe land? Whatever language fish speak, okay? Whatever their vernacular is, whatever lexicon they have, the collection of words that they might have, do you think there are any words that describe land? Why would there be? There can't be any words in the language that fish would speak that describes land, because it's not somewhere they've ever gone. That's not somewhere they've ever been. It's like the final frontier. Star Trek. Watch that. You've never been there. You don't know what it is like. This is something completely new. Never in samsara have you treaded to Nibbana. So there can't be words in this language that we speak, that we talk, that actually describe what Nibbana is. But still, you can get a feeling about what it might be based on your progress in the Dhamma. Because we know that Nibbana is ragakya, dveshakya, mohakya. It is the extinguishing of raga, dvesha, moha, desire, aversion and delusion. It is a state of mind where you don't feel any kind of vexation, where there are no troubles in your mind. Body, yes, but not mental. There are no physical, or there are no mental vexations, no mental torments, no frustrations, no anger, no resentment, nothing like that. Your mind is just free, not empty, free. Some people think the mind is empty when you attain Nibbana. If the mind was empty, how do you think the Buddha would have preached the Dhamma? He didn't start preaching the Dhamma before he attained Nibbana. He did that after he attained Nibbana. There are two types of Nibbana. One is the Nibbana you attain while you are still alive. Sopadisesa Nibbana. And then the other Nibbana you attain after you have entered Parinibbana, which is where your life has come to an end. Question, sir? So when I ask you, do you know that you're getting where you want to get to? You can't tell me that I do when if what you want to get to is something that you're going to experience after you have died. Because you don't know what that's going to be like. What is it going to be like after you're dead? Can you say that? Anyone had an after or death experience, near death? There are near death experiences, but not death experiences. Because you won't live to tell the tale. You're dead. So there are two types of Nibbana, or rather stages in attaining Nibbana. The first is where you become an Arahant, where all cankers and defilements in your mind have been eradicated once and for all. The causes for your vexations have been eradicated once and for all. The causes of your frustrations, mental agitations, annoyances have been eradicated once and for all. Now your mind is at peace, but your physical body is still subject to pain, torture, torment, all these things. Mugalan Maharatan Mahansi, you all know how he had to, what kind of death he had to face, right? He was beaten up by robbers, by a mob of robbers. He was beaten up into a pulp. And it was because of his supernatural powers he was able to put himself back together again and take himself to the Buddha for his permission to pass away. So physically, it's just non-stop. But after you enter Parinibbana, then that's the end of all of it. The thing is, after you've entered Parinibbana, there is no Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana that we can talk about. After you've entered Sopadisesa Nibbana, which is where you have become an Arahant, you still have a mind that arises and passes away. And whenever you have a mind that arises and passes away, the only things we can talk about are Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana. So some of this will be new to some of our new faces. Hopefully you have listened to some previous sermons before you came along. Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana, the basic building blocks of the mind. Rupa, a form, a sight, a sound, smell, taste, touch, or a mental object. Vedana, how you feel about it. Sanya, what label you give it. Sankara, the verbs that you associate with that object. And Vijnana, the final decision you make about it. Example, winnowing fan. It has a sight. If you tap it, it has a sound. If you want to taste it, well, go ahead. You can touch it. Not keen on that. But I suppose you could get all Rupa, Shabda Rupa, Gandha Rupa, Rasa Rupa, Pottappa Rupa, or Sparsha Rupa, right? All these from a winnowing fan. And when I say winnowing fan, then there's also the Dhamma Rupa, the concept of a winnowing fan. All this together, that's your Rupa. Vedana is knowing or feeling about it. How you feel about it. Sometimes it can be pleasurable, sometimes painful, sometimes equanimous. Neither good nor bad, neither pleasant nor unpleasant. Then there's the label that you give it. What's the label you give this? Winnowing fan. Yes? That's the label. Sanya. Sankhara. What can you do with this? Cricket? So it's a winnowing fan. So you can fan yourself with it. As a monk, we use it as an object to cover our modesty. Sankhara. And then Vijnana. The decision that you can make about this. The fact that after you've combined all of that together, you can come to a decision about it. Because this alone is not just the Sanya, it's not just the Rupa, it's not just the Vedana, not just the Sankhara. Put all of them together. Now that's the decision you make about this is a winnowing fan. This is what you call it. This is what it looks like. This is what it smells like. This is what it tastes like. This is what you can do with it. All of that together, that is your Vijnana. So that was a quick stop, whistle-stop tour of what Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankhara Vijnana is. You'll have to go back and listen to the previous sermons to get more detail on that. Ultimately, this is all the mind can experience. So the thing is, Nibbana, you can't really state what Rupa Nibbana is. Because it's the void of all Rupa. Nibbana is void of all Rupa. It's void of all Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara and Vijnana. I'm talking about Anupadisesa Nibbana. After you have entered Parinibbana. Because if I were to ask a question, right? The Buddha, he passed away, right? Parinibbana? He passed away. Where did he go? Nowhere. Nibbanti dhira yathayam patipo. When one has entered Nibbana, it is like a lamp that is blown out. Where did the fire go? Can you say where the fire went to? No. That question itself is meaningless. Where did the fire go? Where did the flame go? It's meaningless. Entering Nibbana is much the same. Or Parinibbana I'm talking about. You can't say where that person went. All that happened was, there are no longer any causes to keep that person alive. There are no longer any causes to say, or for the mind to be. Of course, the body is still there. This is why, after the Buddha passed away, the last respects were paid by the kings and emperors and everyone else that got together and attended to that, his funeral. The body remains, but the mind, where did the mind go? Well, you can't answer that question. Because the question itself is flawed. Where did he go? You can't answer that. That's because if the mind is there somewhere, then you have to be able to say that's the Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankhara Vijnana of the mind. But when the mind has gone nowhere, then there is no Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankhara Vijnana to describe it with. This is why I say, Parinibbana, you can't describe that in terms of Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankhara Vijnana. So my question is then, you're telling me, you know you're getting where you want to get to. Through your practice, through your progress, you're telling me you know where you want to get to. Do you really? Now are you confused? Beg your pardon, sir? To enter Parinibbana, you have to become an Arahant. You have to be an Arahant. Even if an Anagami person passes away, it may be that their last Chitta is an Arahat Pala Chitta. That is quite possible. But it has to be the case. Otherwise, an Anagami will still go into the Rupachara Brahma world, where the Suddhavasa. The point I'm trying to get to you, ladies and gentlemen, is that's not the Nibbana we ought to be aiming for rather. The Nibbana we have to be aiming for is the Nibbana that we can all experience while we are still alive. So don't think of Nibbana as being the state where you go to or some place where you go to after you have passed away, because let that happen. It will happen when it has to happen. Just let that be. Where we are trying to get to is the Nibbana that we can all experience while we are still alive. You will know you have attained Nibbana when there is nothing that can vex you, when there is nothing that can upset you, when there is nothing that can throw you off your guard, when there is nothing that can make you go upset, nothing that can frustrate you, nothing that can annoy you. When you have come to that state, you will know. Because that is what we are trying to get to. That is the Nibbana that we are trying to get to. So how do you know if you are making progress? Well, all you have to do is compare yourself to where you were last week, last month, last year, or simply yesterday. What was your state of mind then? Did someone say something that upset you? Did someone say something that made you angry? Did someone say something that frustrated you, that annoyed you? How did you feel about the same person saying the same thing last year, 6 months ago? Now this is where you have to compare yourself. You have to do that test for yourself. I can't bring you here and give you a test paper, right? Let's see how much progress you've made. We don't have an annual exam to see how much progress you've made in the Dhamma. That you have to test for yourself. This is a self-evaluationary process. But you have to make that evaluation nevertheless. Because if you don't, then something's wrong. Either you're not listening to the right Dhamma, or you're not taking on board what is being said, or you're not putting into practice what you're learning. So you have to make that test. You have to do that self-evaluation. Don't forget to do that. I can't emphasize this enough. You have to do that self-evaluation. Check where you are compared to where you used to be. How does your mind work in situations where someone comes and shouts at you? Or you find the dishes have not been done when you get back home from work. How does that make you feel? Your son or your daughter hasn't made their bed. How does that make you feel? Your husband says a word that is kind of out of order. He shouldn't have said that. How does that make you feel? Scornful. He says it out of spite on his part, but how does that make you feel? If that makes you feel upset, you're still pointing your finger at the outside world. They are making me unhappy. Now who are you trying to fix then? They. You're trying to fix them. You're trying to cross the road. You check both sides, no traffic. Halfway through someone pulls up. And then now they start blaming you. They roll their window down and they start shouting at you in the most kindest words, right? Have you ever experienced road rage? Drivers who go insane when they have to stop their car because you're in front of it, because you're trying to cross the road. How do they talk to you? Please don't do that again, sir. That's how they speak to you, right? Or do they wish well on your mother and father as well at the same time? Do they remind you of your parents? Generally, that is how it happens. So how do you feel then? I know one gentleman who's been coming along to sermons regularly. So he had one of these experiences. So he's comparing himself to how he used to be, and then the other day he came and said, Swami Nohansa, I feel I have made use of this Dhamma. I think I'm getting somewhere. And I said, great. He said, can I share an experience with you? I said, sure. So he said, the other day, as he was walking along the street, I think a rickshaw driver or someone pulled up, and somehow or the other, this man was in front of the vehicle as he was trying to pull up, and that blocked his way and something like that. And then he had shouted, the driver had put his arm out and said, where the hell do you think you're going? In not the kindest words. Using other expletives in between as well, which I'm not going to say here. So you can imagine that, right? You followed by beep, 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 right? And he just answered, I'm just going to the shop to get a loaf of bread. Very calmly, very coolly. I'm just going to the shop. So he didn't shout back. He didn't even feel the need to do that. He said, I felt so pleased about myself at that moment in time. When that event happened, I just felt so good about myself that I had come such a long way in the Dhamma, because at that very moment, his mind started to work, and it's like in slow motion, he could reflect back again what happened then. This man shouting at him, and he's saying, at that moment in time, I can see my mind going, right, this is just Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana. It's just going to arise and pass away. Why do I have to have an objection to this? It's just going to arise and pass away. So that's all it is. The cause for all vexation is attachment. It's not what this man is saying to me that's going to cause me suffering. If I am attached to something, then that is what's going to bring me frustration, anger, resentment, vexation. I am the cause for my own suffering. So I should not do that. All this in the flash of a second. His mind's doing all the hard work. And he said, I was reminded of all of that. And that one moment, I realized there's no point in shouting back. He didn't have to do it through effort. It was just effortless. So he came and shared his story, and I said, Sadhu, sadhu. What a great story. So I want you all to check where you are on the path. And you must. You absolutely must. Because if you're not seeing any change, then you have to fine-tune. Maybe you don't listen to enough Dhamma. Maybe you don't pay attention. Maybe you fall asleep most of the time. Whatever the case might be, make sure you're fixing your own errors. Remember, we are still here today because we didn't do it right last time round. I'm not proud about the fact that I'm sat on this Dharmasana and preaching to you right now. Because really, I shouldn't have been born in the first place. If I did what I ought to have done in my last birth, I wouldn't be here right now. Would I? No. I wouldn't have been a refuge of the Buddha, of the Gautama Supreme Buddha, if I had done what I ought to have done when I came across previous Buddhas. But I didn't. I didn't do what I ought to have done. This is why I'm still here. So I'm not proud about the fact that I'm here. Neither should you be. This is why I say this is a privilege, not a right. Let's all try to make sure that this is the last Buddha that we have to come across. Let's all try and make sure that we never have to see another Buddha. We never have to be born in the dispensation of another Buddha. Not because you've done some unmeritorious deed and that has taken you to the end of this 100,000 world systems and therefore you will never see another Buddha. Not for that reason, but because in this era of this Buddha, you will have attained arahathood. Therefore you will not be born again. Therefore you will not need the refuge of another Buddha. So check where you are regularly. Always check where you are. Every night before you fall asleep, ask yourself, how did I conduct myself today? The times I got angry. Did I feel sad? When my teacher shouted at me at school, how did I feel about that? Yes, I did something wrong. I will correct myself. But how did I feel about the fact that she shouted at me? How did I feel about the fact that someone stole my lunch? How do I feel about the fact that I didn't get that increment I've been waiting for? How do I feel about the fact that I didn't get the promotion I've been waiting for? How do you feel? Ask yourself. How do you feel about the fact that you got an email from a customer who's very angry, who's very upset? How do you feel? How do you feel about the fact that a complaint has just come through about your conduct? Of course, you have to correct yourself if you have made mistakes, but the question is, how do you feel about that? Mentally, are you suffering? Is it torment inside? That you have to fix. And it's only the Dhamma that can do that for you. You see, the reason that we are all still here today is because we have been fooled. We have all been fooled. We have been taken for a fool. Think about all the things you've done in your life so far. Have you ever been fooled in your life? Have you? Anyone ever fooled you? Talk me through. How did that happen? What's the first thing they did or you did? How did someone fool you? How did someone trick you? Have you ever been tricked in your life? Not tripped, tricked. How did that happen? Talk me through. Generally, they would have first said something to you. Praise you, yes. They'll praise you for something. They'll say, "Oh, you're a really nice man. You're a very kind person, aren't you? You're a very gentle person. You're very generous, sir." Oh, yeah, those words, sir, madam. Have to be very careful. Because why do you have to be careful about the words sir and madam? Why do you think them as being words of praise? That's because you like to be called sir and madam. That's why you choose to go to the shop where they call you sir. That's why you choose to go to the shop, to the hairdresser that call you, where the people in the shop call you madam. Come, welcome, madam. What if they said, "Come on in. What do you want? What can I do for you?" You're probably not going to go a second time. Why? Because they're not feeding your ego. That's why. They're not feeding your ego. Your ego tells you, "I have to be called sir. I have to be called madam. Look at me, what an important person I am. What an accomplished person I am. I am so and so in society. I'm very educated. I'm a professional. I'm a doctor. I'm a consultant. I'm an engineer. I'm a lawyer. I'm a politician. I'm an important man. So I should be respected. I should not be spoken to like that." So you have an ego about that. You will only go to places where they feed your ego. Where do you find flies? Yes, where there's food. Why? Because that's where they'll be fed. For someone with an ego, where will you find them? Where they're going to be fed. Where their ego is going to be fed. So people will take you for a fool. They will fool you for as long as you have ignorance. I want to explain to you how dangerous ignorance is. For as long as you have ignorance, avidya, you can be fooled. What is ignorance? Put it simply, not knowing the truth. Right? Vidya is the truth, avidya is not knowing the truth. This is ignorance. Ignorance of the truth. What is the truth? What is false? For as long as you take this world to be pleasurable, there are things in this world which are pleasurable. For as long as that is how you feel about the world, that implies that you have ignorance. That is a mind that has ignorance. For as long as you believe that there are pleasurable things in this world, either things or people or events, whatever the case might be, for as long as you find this world to be pleasurable, you are really suffering from ignorance. Suffering from ignorance. And for as long as you are ignorant, people can take you for a fool. Because they can get you to do things for them, on their behalf, just by giving you something that pleases you. Right? If there are things that please you, if there are things that make you happy, then to get what they want to get done out of you, all they have to do is to give you something that makes you happy. Isn't that not right? What are some of the things that makes you happy? Is that a difficult question? What are some of the things that make you happy? Praise. Go on, what else? Money. Ka-ching. What else? What makes you happy, Buddha? Pizza. Good. So I know now how Ammi makes you do things at home. What are some of the other things that make you happy? Positions. Right? What position you hold makes you happy. The car you drive, what brand it is, does that not make you happy? How many stories your house is? How big your house is? How many acres your coconut plantation is? How big it is? How many children you have? All these things are things that make people happy. How many titles you have after your name? Which one of these do you like better? BSc or MSc? MSc or PhD? Or do you like Prof? That sounds better, isn't it? Prof. These are things that, if these are things that make you happy, then beware. You can be pleased. Beware. There are other things that can make you happy. Because ultimately, the way you know your world is through eye, ear, nose, tongue, mouth. Or rather body, sorry. Eye, ear, nose, tongue and body. For as long as you can be pleased through your five senses, well, you can be pleased. For as long as you find pleasure through your five senses, you can be pleased. So, you can be pleased through your eyes, through your ears, through your nose, through your tongue and through body. And for as long as you can be pleased by any of these means, people can get things done from you. People can get things done for them from you. All they have to do is give you something that pleases you. Throw the dog a bone. That's all they have to do. Throw the dog a bone. Just think about this as I say this out loud, right? Think about some of your life experiences. How people convinced you to do things. Did they not give you the things that you just called out and said, these are the things that I like? They might have given you more money. And then you said, okay, I'll do it for that price. First they said, would you do it for this? Nah. I'll give you a little bit more. Nah. This much more. Okay, I'll do it. More money? Happy? Yes, I'll do it. Then praise. It happens at home. Ammi, can you buy me that new PlayStation? No, I can't. Oh, you're a good dumb, you know. Ammi, can you buy me that PlayStation, please? No, I can't. Oh, Ammi, you're nice, Ammi. You're the best Ammi in the whole world. Oh, all right then. Charming, right? So much charm. What did the mother want after all? Praise. If you fall for praise, people can get things done from you. Sometimes you wouldn't do it otherwise. You wouldn't do it otherwise. But when they give you something that you like, when they give you something that gives you pleasure, now you're willing to do it. Sometimes you do the wrong thing. The thing is, everyone has a price for everything. Beyond that price, you forget all your stipules. Beyond that price, you forget all the promises that you have. At that price, I will do it. Ask yourself, are you that kind of person? Are there barriers you're willing to cross? Are there borders that you've set for yourself which you're willing to cross when there's a right price? When the right price is paid to you, are you willing to cross that? So it's money, it could be a promotion, it could be title, right? If there are things that bring you pleasure in your life, be very careful. Because when people find the right buttons to push, they will push them. These are all buttons attached to you. Just imagine yourself, right? If there are 5 things you like: money, praise, title, car, house. These are all buttons. For as long as they remain uncovered, people don't know how to excite you, how to incentivize you. But as soon as they find them, now they'll start pushing them. And when they start pushing them, then fireworks are going to go off in your mind. And when those fireworks start going off, now you're willing to do anything for pleasure. Be very careful. This is why we always talk about what real pleasure is. What is pleasure? This is why we spend a lot of time trying to explain to you that pleasure is nothing other than relief from vexation. That pleasure itself is a fallacy. It's a false. There is no real pleasure out there. Because when you really understand that people can no longer fool you, would you like to be fooled? Do you like to be tricked? Do you? There are a lot of parents who come and tell us, young parents, who having listened to the Dhamma, they want to come and ordain. But they can't. Why? Children. Today they say, oh, I wish I never had kids. Some parents come and tell us, I wish I never had kids. But now I can't change the fact. See, today you're regretting it. Does that not mean you've been fooled? Back then you were fooled. Back then you saw as kids being a source of pleasure. Someone said to you, kids are a source of pleasure. So you went on and had them. Now you're realizing, actually no, that is not the case. Children are nothing other than a source of pain and suffering. Now I want to get out of this, but I can't. Because I've signed the contract which says no returns, no refunds. Not something I'm saying. Parents come and tell us. I never had kids, so I didn't have that problem. The thing is, for as long as you are ignorant, I really want you to understand the danger of ignorance. How serious this problem is. There is no bigger problem for you at all. This is the biggest problem. Ignorance. For as long as you are ignorant that there is pleasure in the outside world, that the outside world can bring you pleasure, for as long as you believe in that, then people can fool you. People can trick you. Because all they have to do is find that thing that you believe brings you pleasure, and then just bring it to you. And then you will just accept it, you will embrace it, and for that, you will do what they ask you to do, what they want you to do. Sometimes it's not what you want to do. Do you really want to do the things you do at work? Do you really want to do them? If you do, would you need to be paid to do them? Think about some of the things you do voluntarily. People volunteer to do things, right? I volunteer. Why do you volunteer to do certain things? Because you like to do it. without any remuneration, without any pay, without any incentive. You would do it because you like to do it. So then why do you have to be paid at work? Is that because you really like to do it? Or is it because you will do it on someone else's behalf because they will pay you for it? In other words, give you something that you like. So you will do something that they like or that they want you to do. Genuinely, they don't like doing it either. How do you know? Well, otherwise they would have done it themselves. This is why they have hired you to do it. Do you think your manager likes to do your job? If your manager loved doing your job, what job do you think your manager would be doing right now? Your job. If they love doing your job, they wouldn't be doing their job, they'd be doing your job. They don't like doing your job. This is why they asked for a promotion, they got somewhere else. Now they'll pay you to do what they don't like to do. To get you to do what they don't like to do themselves, all they have to do is find something that you like. And you tell me you like money. So all they have to do is give you money, and for as long as it's the right price, you will do it. Is that not dangerous? Who's a hitman? Hitman is someone who kills for money. They don't necessarily like killing. Otherwise they wouldn't ask for the money to kill. They'll kill, provided they get given something that they like, that they want. What can money buy, after all? Can money buy love? Can it? No, money can't buy love. All money can buy is Rupa, Shabda, Gandha, Rasa, Sparsha. You have a 18-inch screen at home, TV at home. What is that? Rupa, Shabda, Gandha, Rasa, Sparsha. That's all it is. You've got a car. What is that? Again, sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. You can buy yourself a double cheeseburger. What is that? Again, sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. Can money buy anything that is not a sight, not a sound, not a smell, not a taste, not a touch? Can money buy anything like that? Land. What's land? Still, sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. Money can only buy such things. Yes or no? If you believe what I'm saying is not true, then please say so. This is all money can buy. Why do you want to buy those things? Why do you go after them? Some of it is because you are physically suffering. Physically you need shelter, you need food, you need clothing. You need to protect yourself from the elements, right? You need to keep yourself safe for your physical well-being. But the majority of it is really not for the physical ailments that you have. It's for the mental satisfaction. Why does your TV have to be so big? I don't know how big your TV is. I'm just saying. Just ask yourself. How many channels do you need to watch at home? Why do you need dish TV? How many channels can you watch at any given time? Just one. And any channel you watch is ultimately going to be Rupa, Shabda, Gandha, Rasa. Oh, well, it's just going to be Rupa, Shabda. Right? Any TV you watch is just going to be Rupa, Shabda, sights and sounds. Why do you need 80 of those channels? To get the 80, you're going to have to pay up. So you are prepared to pay. How many clothes can you wear at any given time? Something on top, something underneath, right? Maybe a hat to protect yourself from the hot weather. That's probably it. But how many do you have in your cupboard? How many pairs of shoes can you wear at any given time? But how many do you have? Why? Because each of those items someone came up to you and said, that's a good one to have. Either someone came up to you or you went somewhere and saw it. As you walk down the street, right? You go shopping for grocery. Because why? You're hungry. You need to buy something to eat. But you walk past a fashion shop, a clothes shop. Now there's an idol there, a mannequin, and on which is the latest designer wear. You walk past that. Now, it's like a magnet has been switched on in the shop. A human magnet. Now you just find yourself wading into the shop. You can't even stop it. You want to walk that way, but your legs are going that way. You can't stop it. Why is this? Ignorance. Because you take that sight, sound, smell, taste and touch bring you pleasure. For as long as you believe in that, the outside world brings you pleasure, you can be fooled. You can be tricked. You can be taken for a fool. You have all gone through the school system. Education. Everything you have learned so far, except for the Dhamma, has all been about how do you live in this world? How do you stay alive? How do you survive? How do you solve problems that come to you? Yes or no? Whatever academy you might have taken, whatever discipline you might have studied, whether it's physics or math or chemistry or medicine, law, all of these subjects teach you how to live happily in this world. And to live happily, all they teach you is these are the sight, sound, smells, tastes and touch that make you happy. So do whatever you can to bring those sight, sound, smells, tastes and touch to you, towards you. Take science for example. What did we learn in science? Science and technology. We learn that people have problems that they need to solve. Right? Every human being needs to find a way to survive. We fall hungry, so we need to find food. We need shelter. We need clothing. We need medicines. This is what we learned at science, for science. And how do we solve these problems? This is what we learned at science. How do you light a fire? We learn at science. How do you make a building? We learn for science. How do you make the latest medicines? We learn for science. Math. What did math teach us? How to solve life's problems. Yes or no? What did social studies teach us? How to learn, how to solve life's problems. All these subjects that we learnt at school taught us how to solve life's problems. Chemistry, physics, you name it. Banking, accounting. What did they teach us? Medicine, law, how to solve life's problems. We just didn't realize that the solution that we were bringing to one problem is another problem. Take banking. There's a problem. We need to earn ourselves some money so that we can retire happily. Now that's the solution to a problem, which is there's not going to be anyone to look after us. So we need to save up money now, because there's going to be a time in our lives when we can't work for ourselves. So let's work now, save money in an account or somewhere that we can use after we have retired. So that's the solution to the problem. Now the solution is save up money. Now there's another question. How do you save money? Where do you save your money? What if the bank is insecure? Which accounts do you save? Do you have to keep an eye on it so the investments go up and down? I know a lot of old elderly people who spend a lot of their time going through their bank accounts, making sure that their investments are working for them. So their life is now really spent in front of a computer screen watching their investments go up and down. What a pity. Still solving life's problems at the age of 75. Where's the end? Someone said, if you are lonely, have kids. Okay, that's a good solution to that problem. Right, so you went on and had kids. Now, you've got to protect them. You've got to bring them up. You've got to put them into a good school. You've got to teach them good manners. You've got to save them from, you've got to save the girls from the boys. You've got to save the boys from the girls. Right? Problems. You've got to take them for tuition classes, and when they're late to get back home, problem. See how the solution to one problem is a whole host of another problems? A whole host of other problems. This is what school taught us. The problem is, we were fools to go to that school. We went to fool school. An education system which teaches fools how to be happy in this world. I went through the same thing. I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. I'm just saying this is what happened in my life. I went to fool school. School for fools. Fools that don't realize that there's a bigger problem that needs to be solved. Solving the problem is not the answer. Because when you solve one problem, you've just kicked off another problem. When you solve that problem, you just kicked off another problem. There's no end to this. Think about your lives. Are you still to this day not solving problems? Whether it's your children, your grandchildren, your neighbors, your relations, right? Your job, your retirement, whatever, you're still solving problems. Your home, your bills. Everyone's solving some kind of problem. At this moment in time, you're all still solving problems. If I were to ask you all to write down a list of problems that you have in your life right now, anyone going to be stuck? Anyone going to be stuck for ideas? I just don't have any problems in my life. No, you're all going to have plentiful. Ask yourself, what age are you now? How many years have you been solving problems? You're this age now and you're still solving problems? So where's the end? At what age will you no longer need to solve problems? The problem is you went to fool school. Nothing wrong with the school system. It was a school for fools. You went there. So did I. Until I realized solving problems is not the answer. You've got to tackle the problem. Treat the problem at the root, not go find solutions. The thing is, all problems that we have in life, every problem that you have is a big vexation, is it not? Every problem is a big vexation. Until you realize vexation is the biggest problem. Problems are going to be your biggest vexation until you realize vexation is your biggest problem. Like the example I gave you last week, I think, the analogy I told you about two people in a prison. Do you remember that? Two people get thrown into prison for something they've done. Now they're imprisoned, incarcerated. These guys, they've seen the outside world, so they know there's a world out there, but they're now in prison. Now they're looking for any opportunity to get out of here, so they're looking for help, someone who can help them to get out of there. They're looking for help. They need help. Right now they're helpless. But these two people, after a while, they have a child. This child's born into prison. The child is born in the prison, so this child doesn't know anything about the outside world. So this child, the biggest problem for this child is not how do I get out of prison, because he doesn't know about a world outside the prison. To this child, the biggest problem is, how do I make a good living inside these four walls? How can I be happy where I am? But for the parents, how do we get the hell out of here? One's hopeless, the other is helpless. The parents are helpless, they need help to get out of here. The child is hopeless because he has no hope. He doesn't even know that there is a problem. He thinks that my biggest problem is, what do I have for dinner tonight? So ask yourselves, is that where you are still? Is that where you are still in the Dhamma? Is your biggest problem today still, what are you going to have for dinner tonight? How are you going to get your, you want to go somewhere, where do I get my visa? When am I going to get it? How do I get it? Is that your biggest problem? How do I make my next million? Is that your biggest problem? My business is going under. What can I do to set it back upright? Is that your biggest problem? My child is failing their exams. What can I do to stop? Is that your biggest problem? I'm not saying there shouldn't be problems. There will be problems, yes. What I'm saying is that your biggest problem? If that is your biggest problem, then you're like that child in prison. You're hopeless. Not helpless, hopeless. You don't even know that you need help. It's like a patient that doesn't even know that they've got cancer. Is not knowing that you've got cancer not going to kill you? Just because you don't know you have cancer, are you now going to be immune from what it's going to be doing to you? No. It's just going to make it worse because you're not even going to try to treat yourself. At least if you know you've got cancer, now you can do something to prepare yourself for it or treat it. This is when you go looking for help. I've got cancer, can you help me please? But you don't have cancer, now you're hopeless. Or you don't know you have cancer, now you're hopeless. So do try to understand. Yes, every problem is a vexation. Every problem is a big vexation. But really, vexation has to be your biggest problem. And for as long as there's going to be attachment, you will be vexed. You will be vexing. What do we mean by vexing? What is vexation? This mental frustration, mental torment, agitation, annoyance, right? All these words that you express, you use to express your mental dissatisfaction, unease of mind, this is all vexation. Pelima, the word in Sinhala for that. The cause of vexation is attachment. Consider this. Like I said at the beginning, right? We all have eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body. This mind can only take one mental object at any given time. So when the mind is seeing something, it's not hearing at the same time. It can only do one thing at one time. Although you think you can multitask, you just cannot multitask. The mind cannot multitask. The mind can only do one thing at any given time. This is why even I think experts these days say multitasking is really not worth it. Don't try to multitask because you're not going to do either thing correctly. Do one thing first, get it done, then move on to the next thing. People who talk about productiveness, they talk about this kind of stuff. Multitasking is pointless. And that is true because the mind cannot multitask. The mind can only do one thing at one given time. So when the mind is seeing something, it's not hearing something at the same time. When the mind is hearing something, it's not tasting something at the same time. It's only doing one thing at any given time. So, considering that, when the mind is seeing something, it's not hearing anything. All with me so far? Because the Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana, you can only have one type of them. If it's to do with sight, then you have the Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana to do with sight at that given time. Maybe the next mind, the next chitta, can arise with Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana to do with hearing, but not the first. That's already gone, and that's already to do with seeing. That being the case, do you think hearing is an essential part of being alive? Because if your mind cannot hear while it's seeing, does hearing need to happen for the mind to be alive? For someone, we talk about the mind, right? So for the mind to be alive, for the mind to work, do we need hearing? Does hearing have to happen? I'm not making myself clear by the look on your faces. Let me try again. At any given time, we can only do one of these 5 things, right? So we can see, we can hear, we can taste, we can touch, and we can smell. These are the 5 things that we can experience about the outside world. And they come into our inside world through our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body, right? All with me so far? Right. So when we are seeing something, we are not hearing something at the same time, because that cannot happen together. Every chitta can only stand by itself. You can't have two thoughts at the same time. This is the law. You can't have 2 thoughts at the same time. There can only be one. One arises, it passes away. Then the next one arises, and then it passes away, and so along. You can only have one thought at any given time. All with me so far? Okay. So, when there's a thought that's now functioning, which is doing the function of activity of looking at something, is it also hearing something at the same time? No, because it can only do one thing at one time. So for example, you can hear me speak right now, right? You can also see me. But seeing me and hearing me are not happening at the same time. It's happening at such a rapid rate, these two are flicking. Hearing me, you're seeing me, you're hearing me, you're seeing me, you're hearing me, you're seeing me. This is happening at such a rapid rate, right? 1 billion times per second. This is why you feel like you're seeing me and hearing me at the same time. Because chittas arise and pass away at such a rapid rate. But every chitta can only take one object. One aramuna, right? And that is, for example, seeing or hearing. Okay? So, if when you are seeing me, you can't hear me, but this chitta, this mind is still functioning with seeing alone, is hearing something fundamental, is hearing essential to be alive. Do you need to hear something for the mind to be alive? No, because when you're seeing something, you're not hearing anything. When you're seeing me, you're not hearing me at the same time. So if you're not hearing me while you're seeing me, then hearing is not something that is essential for the mind to function. Right? Because if hearing was essential, then when you're seeing me, because you're not hearing me at the same time, then the mind should stop working. Also, when you're hearing me, you can't see me at the same time. So that implies that seeing is not a vital function. It's not something that you have to do to be alive. So, to put it into more simplistic terms, if you went blind, what would happen to you? Nothing, you'd just go blind. You're not going to die because you've gone blind. If you go deaf, what would happen? That's it, you've just gone deaf. You're not going to die because you've gone deaf. But the mind's still going to work. The mind's still going to function. So the mind doesn't need sights or sounds or smell or taste or touch. It doesn't need any of them. It just needs something. Not one thing in particular. So the mind is not fussed about whether it's a sight, a sound, a smell, a taste or a touch that came its way. It just needs something. And that something can either be a sight, either be a sound, smell, taste or a touch. Doesn't matter which one. It just has to be one of these 5. With me so far? Just has to be one of these 5. It's not fussed, it's not particular which one of these 5 it is. So that being the case, can we not come to the conclusion that seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting and feeling physical sensations are not things that are essential for life? because life will still go on even without them. You just need one of them, any one of them, not one in particular. So they're not essential. So if they're not essential, like there are two types of people in this world. Some people work for a living. Others live to work. Yes? Some people work for a living. Others live so they can work. Now let's apply the same theory to what I just explained there. The mind does not need sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. It's not particular about any of them. But nevertheless, we keep feeding them into the mind. So really, we're not seeing so the mind can live. The mind is living to see. We are alive so we can see things. Not we are seeing things to stay alive. This is a very subtle point. I hope you're getting what I'm trying to say. If you pay attention, you will. This is a very subtle point. It's quite a shameful point, really. We're not looking at things, we're not seeing things because we're alive. Actually, we're staying alive, we are keeping ourselves alive so we can look at things. We are keeping ourselves alive so we can listen to things, not the other way around. It's not hearing or listening things that keeps us alive. We are making an effort to stay alive so we can listen to things. But we know that seeing is not something that brings us pleasure. Seeing never brought us pleasure. Pleasure can only be experienced when you relieve yourself from vexation. First you have to attach your mind to something, a sight in this case. Then you are going to start vexing. When you are relieved from vexation, now you experience pleasure. So it's not looking at an object, it's not a sight that brought us pleasure, right? So if it's not a sight that brought us pleasure, then why look at it? Because it's not the sight that is keeping you alive right now. It's not looking that's keeping you alive right now. It's not your eye that's keeping you alive right now. You're staying alive so that you can look at things. You're staying alive, you're making an effort, a deliberate effort to be alive so you can look at the outside world. You can hear the outside world. You can taste, you can smell, you can touch and feel the outside world. You're making a deliberate effort to stay alive so you can do these things. Not the other way around. The problem with that is this. None of those things really bring us any pleasure. But the moment you attach, now you're vexing. And every moment you're alive, you're subjecting yourself, you're making yourself available to suffer the consequences of all the deeds you've done in the past. But for no purpose, for no real purpose. Because if all you can do while you're alive is look, hear, or rather listen, smell, taste and touch. If these are the only things you can do while you're alive, but none of these things are really bringing you any pleasure, but you still attach yourself to them, and then you live so that you can experience these things, the problem with that is, well, you're alive. And for as long as you're alive, now you're going to be subject to all the consequences of the deeds you've done in the past. All the bad deeds you've done in the past. You've prepared yourself to accept the consequences of those things for no real reason, for nothing of value. Because looking never brought you any pleasure. Hearing never brought you any pleasure. Smelling, tasting and touch never brought you any pleasure. Because they are not sources of pleasure. They are sources of vexation. The moment you attach, you're vexing. Because remember, the mind can only do two things. With all the sights, sounds, smells, taste and touch there is in the outside world, the mind can only do two things with all these things. One is attach. The other thing, not attach. That's all the mind can do. Flower. What can the mind do with the flower? You can walk up to it and pluck it. You can smell it. If you want, you could taste it. But what can the mind do with the flower? Either attach or not attach. These are the only two things the mind can do. Can the mind water flowers? Can the mind prune it? No, the mind can't do any of these things. The nose can smell it, but the mind can only do attach or not attach. If you don't attach, then no problem. But the moment you attach, now vexation. That being the only thing that the mind can do, why does the mind still stay alive to see sights, smells, taste, touch and sensations? Let me give you this example. You walk up to a young boy, right? He's standing in the garden or wherever, and you can see this man, this child doing something. You see him bending towards the ground, picking up a stone, standing back upright again, and he drops the stone again. Now he bends down again, picks it up again, stands upright, and drops the stone again. And again he just keeps repeating this. You go and ask him, "Hey, Buddha, what's going on here? Can't you see? I'm picking this stone up." "Yeah, I can see that, but what you're doing after that is what surprises me, what confuses me. Why are you dropping it?" "Well, that's what I'm here for." He says, "That's what I'm here for." I said, "What do you mean?" "That's what I'm here. I'm just here to pick up a stone and drop it again." What would you think about that child? Silly? Or very clever? Are they doing anything of essence? Doing anything that is meaningful? Or is that just a meaningless thing? There is nothing to gain by doing that. All they're doing is picking up a stone, dropping it back down. Picking it up again and dropping it. Picking it back up and dropping it. Picking it back up and dropping it. You ask him, "Why are you doing this?" Is the process of picking up a stone keeping him alive? No. So he's not doing it to stay alive. But he's saying, "I'm staying alive so I can keep doing this." Do you see how meaningless that is? Or you walk up to the ocean, to the beach, let's say, right? There's a man standing at the beach, and you see him taking a handful of water from the ocean and then dropping it back down again, putting it back into the water. And he bends down again, picks up another handful of water, stands up, and then pours it back down into the ocean, into the sea. And then he just keeps doing it. You ask him, "What are you doing?" "Well, I'm just getting some water from the ocean." "Yeah, I can see that, but it's what you're doing after that surprises me. What are you doing?" "I'm just putting it back into the water." "Why?" "That's what I'm here for." I say, "Are you getting paid?" "No, that's what I'm here to do." "Do you have to do this to be alive, to be healthy?" "No. I'm staying alive so I can do this." Is that not a really silly thing to do? Meaningless? Because there's no connection between staying alive and what this guy is doing, right? Likewise, the mind is just the same. Like that child picking up a stone and dropping it back down, picking up another stone, dropping it down, picking up a stone and dropping it. For no benefit out of it. Nothing's coming out of this process. There's nothing meaningful that's coming out of this process. The mind is doing just the same. Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana arises, passes away, arises and passes away, arises and passes away. It's not the Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana out of sight, sound, smell, taste or touch that's keeping this mind alive. The mind is staying alive to take in sight, sound, smell, taste and touch, and the Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana that comes out of it. What a meaningless thing to do. What an essenceless thing to do. What a useless thing to do. When after all, it's not bringing any pleasure either. The child is not getting paid to do it. The man standing by the beach, he's not getting paid to do it. These sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, none of it is bringing us any pleasure. Because pleasure can only be experienced through relief from vexation. So for our new listeners, I'll just explain what do I mean by relief from vexation. I'm seeing your faces perplexed. No, the mind needs one of these five. Doesn't need one in particular. Right? It doesn't need any one in particular. It just needs something. Like, remember we spoke about hunger? When the tummy is empty, this is why when your stomach is empty, this is why you feel hunger. So how do you sate your hunger? What has to go in? Anything. Does it have to be food? No, it doesn't have to be food. To be healthy, of course, you can only eat food. If you put anything else in, then you're going to have trouble. But if hunger is the problem, to solve that problem, you can put just anything into it. A bag of sand, is that not going to solve hunger? Of course it is. Put anything and hunger is going to go away. So likewise, when the mind, to keep the mind alive, all you need is Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana. It doesn't matter where it came from. This is what I said, it's a very subtle point. That being the case, it's foolish for us to say, and it's meaningless for us to say that the mind needs sights. The mind doesn't need to look at things. Doesn't need to smell things. Doesn't need to taste. Doesn't need to hear. Doesn't need any of these things. All it needs is Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana. It doesn't need any one in particular. If it doesn't need any one in particular, well, the mind can do it itself. Dhamma Aramana. So there's Rupa Rupa, Shabda Rupa, Gandha Rupa, Rasa Rupa, Pottappa Rupa and Dhamma Rupa. So the mind is really self-sufficient. So when you go into, for example, the Arupavachara Brahma worlds, there are no sight, sound, smells, taste or touch there. Because it's Arupavachara. No form, it's formless. It's the formless sphere. So the only objects that come into the mind are the objects that the mind has in itself. It's like when you're thinking about something. Right? You're not looking at anything, you're not smelling anything, you're not tasting, you're just thinking about something. So the mind is functioning by itself. The mind is self-sufficient. If that is the case, then actually seeing and smelling and tasting and hearing and touching are not things that are essential for life. They are auxiliary. They're not essential. So therefore we cannot say that I am looking to stay alive. Or I am hearing to stay alive. I am smelling or tasting or feeling to stay alive. It's actually the other way around. I am staying alive so I can look. I am staying alive so I can hear. I can listen. I can touch. I can smell. I can taste. But we also know that smelling, tasting, touching, hearing, listening, none of these things actually bring us any pleasure. Because it's relief from vexation that brings us pleasure. So just to explain what I mean by relief from vexation. Pleasure can only be sought when you have relief from suffering. As an example, if you have a rash on your hand, on your wrist or wherever, right? You feel pleasure when you're scratching yourself. That's pleasurable, is it not? You have a rash, you scratch it, that's pleasurable. Or you have a headache, when you take a paracetamol and the headache goes, that's pleasurable. You have a toothache, and when you take a tablet or something, now it feels pleasurable. Pleasurable? But for there to be pleasure, there has to be pain beforehand. When you're hungry, if you eat something, then you feel the pleasure of this hunger going away. But there's no hunger now. How can you find pleasure? If you are not hungry, if your stomach is full of food, now you're not hungry, so there's no fire to put out. You can find pleasure by drinking a cool drink, having a cool drink when it's a hot day and you're thirsty. If you're not hot, if you're not thirsty, how can a cool drink bring you pleasure? Right now this aircon is bringing you pleasure. You're feeling pleasure right now because you were hot before you walked into this room. So why don't they have air conditioners in every house, in every country, in all over the world? If it's the aircon that brings pleasure. You have heaters in some countries. Why? Because now to relieve yourself from suffering, you need the opposite. Because now the suffering is the heat, or rather the cold. Therefore you need a heater to relieve yourself from suffering. And when you walk up to a heater, now that feels pleasurable. Why? Because you're being relieved from pleasure, rather relieved from vexation. But if you were all to stay in this room and have the aircon turned down to, let's say, 18 degrees, an hour or two into it, now you're all going to start shivering. Why? Why is it no longer pleasurable? Because the vexation has now gone away. The pain has gone away. Without pain, there's no gain. No suffering, no pleasure. Simple. Simple as that. So without the rash on your hand, you can't get pleasure because there's no rash to itch. No rash to scratch. Right? So to experience pleasure, there has to be suffering. Relief from suffering is what brings us pleasure. You have to be hungry first, then you eat. Now you feel the pleasure of your hunger being extinguished. Without the hunger, eating food is not going to be pleasurable. Just think about how, as you walked in this room and you were sat on these chairs, right? You chose a certain posture to sit in. Because that's the most comfortable posture for all of you, right? So why did you change it then? If that original posture that you sat in was the most comfortable posture, then why did you change it 15 minutes, 20 minutes into the sermon? Because it started to become uncomfortable. Then after you changed it, after you shuffled your bum, made yourself a little bit more comfortable, you experienced comfort as you relieved yourself from pain. Because your legs started to go numb, right? Your back started to become sore, and now you shuffled your bum, you shifted yourself, and you experienced pleasure. That pleasure was experienced the moment you relieved yourself from pain. But the posture you're in right now is going to bring you pain again. And then again, to experience pleasure, what are you going to do? Again, shuffle yourself. And the moment you relieve yourself from vexation, that pain, you're going to feel pleasure. But that pleasure is going to pass away. So this is an indirect relationship between these two. The more vexation you're in, or rather a direct relationship, to be fair, the more pain you're in, the more pleasure you're going to experience. So if you want more pleasure, what should you do? You want more pleasure, what do you want to do? What should you do? Bring more pain. Yes. I frequently give the example of what I used to experience as I used to fly and see people at the airport. How people used to greet each other. There are several ways in which people greet each other at the airport. So at the arrivals, you see some people they just give hand to hand, welcome back. Others give a pat on the back. Others give a hug. And others have tears of joy. Why? Why so much difference? Why so much diversity in the way that people greet each other? Really, if you do a study, you will realize that this is directly proportional to the time that they have spent apart. The longer that these two people have spent apart, the more welcoming the reception is going to be. If it's been a week, sometimes it's just a pat on the back. If it's been several months, maybe a quick embrace. But if it's been a few years, now there's going to be tears of joy. You're going to be rolling on the floor. Why? Because pleasure is relief from vexation. That's why. So this is the veil of ignorance that we need to try and move out of the way. We need to get rid of this veil of ignorance, because then we'll begin to see the truth. The reason that we attach ourselves to this world is because of pleasure. If you remember from last week, we don't attach to pleasure. We attach to the world, but because of pleasure. Pleasure's the why, sight, sound, smell, taste and touch is the what. So we attach to the what because of the why. You like cake. Why do you like cake? Go on. Why do you like cake? Because it's pleasurable. Because it's yummy. It's tasty, right? Delicious. Take away delicious. Do you like cake? No. So why do you like pizza? Because it's delicious. Take away delicious? No, you no longer like pizza. Why did you get married to the person you got married to? Is it because he was a man? Ladies, why did you get married to the person you got married to? Is it simply because that was a man? No, there were lots of men in your life. So why did you pick this person? Because they were good looking? You like their sight, you like their sound, you like their smell. You can fill in the rest. Right? Because you found them pleasurable, that's why you tied the knot. So you attach to sight, sound, smells, taste and touch because you found them pleasurable. Because of pleasure, you attach to the sight, sound, smells, taste and touch. But sight, sound, smell, taste and touch never brought pleasure. Pleasure can only be experienced when you relieve yourself from suffering, from vexation. This is stacking high and selling cheap. Seriously. The promise of pleasure is never fulfilled. They'll keep promising, but it's never fulfilled. And because it's never fulfilled, you still keep looking. This is why at the age of 75, you're still looking for happiness. You have not found it yet. As yet, you have still not found it. Unconditional happiness you have still not found. You're still looking. That is why you're still solving life's problems. In the hope that the next problem I solve is going to make me happy. But no, it's not. Because the next problem you solve, that solution is another problem. The only way to really be happy is to take away the problem, not bring a solution. Take away the problem, tackle the problem, not bring a solution. Tackle the problem, break down the problem. You know, when you learn problem solving, what's the first lesson they give you? Understand the what? The solution? Understand the problem. Because half the time there isn't a problem to solve. Have you not realized that at your workplace? Right? When they give you professional learning at work and things like that, half the time there isn't a problem to solve. You just made a problem out of nothing. A lot of time people solve problems that don't even exist. But why do people like solving problems? What is a problem? A problem is a vexation. What is a solution? Relief from vexation. And therefore you find pleasure. So in the pursuit of pleasure, people love to solve problems. That's what keeps the world going round. Solving problems. That is why we have all the ministries, all the departments, all the authorities that we have all over the world. Why? Solving people's problems. Whatever job you're in right now, what are you doing? Not individually what is the name of your profession, but what is the essence of it? You're solving people's problems. Whatever profession you're in. I'm going to show you the difference between you and I. The profession that you're in and the profession that I am in. I'm trying to show you the difference. Hopefully it's clicked already. Whatever profession you're in right now, you may be a doctor. What are you doing? Solving people's problems. You may be a teacher. What are you doing? Solving people's problems. You're an engineer. Same goes. Lawyer. Same goes. What else? Electrician, plumber, carpenter, hairdresser, florist, fishmonger, name it. You're solving people's problems. What's my profession? I'm not solving people's problems. I'm showing you how to take away the problem. Then there is no longer problems to solve. There are no more problems to solve then. That is the difference between you and I. Back when I used to be a layperson, I used to solve people's problems. And I went around the world trying to solve my problems, trying to get people to solve my problems. And I realized I was just sick and tired of it. Every day is another problem. So I have to go looking for other people to help me solve my problems. You can never really become independent. Would you like to become independent? What's the age of becoming independent? When do you become independent? 16? 18? There is no such age. How can you become independent when you have problems to solve? Can you solve all the problems that you have yourself? No. Your tap is leaking. Now who do you need? You need a plumber. The roof is leaking. Now? What do you call it? A bath. Tile bath. You're ill. Now you need a doctor. You don't know something about something you ought to know. Now you need a teacher. You're in a lawsuit. Now you need a lawyer, a solicitor. See? How can you ever become independent? For as long as you have problems to solve, there's not an age at which you become independent. So you're all dependents. All of us. I'm still a dependent. I'm dependent on you. Why? Because I still fall hungry. I don't cook for myself. I don't make a living, so I'm dependent on you to sate my hunger. I fall ill, so I'm dependent on you to treat me when I fall ill. I don't make a living to go and earn myself medicines and things like that. I need a shelter, so I'm still dependent on you. Is it too chilly, madam? Another problem to solve, right? That's how this is going to help us solve that problem. See? Problems. When is there ever an end to this? Those days you used to complain that it was too warm in here. So we solved that problem. In solving that problem, what did we just do then? Bring another problem. Now you're too cold. So where's the end to this? This is why there's a difference in what you do, what I used to do, and what I'm doing now. Now my profession is not solving problems. It's to try to help you to take away the problem, so there's no problem to solve. So why do we have this problem? Because the problem is the result of causes. The Buddha's teaching is cause and effect. This is the effect. The problem is the effect. Take away the cause, you no longer have that effect. So what is the problem? We are vexing, that's the problem. Either physically or mentally, we are vexing. Why do you go to the cinema? Someone put a gun to your head and said, go to the cinema? No, because you like to look at sights. Vexing. This is vexation. If I asked you all to shut your eyes, how long can you be like that? How long can you stay with your eyes shut? Tell me, how many hours? Have you ever tried it? At home? Staying with your eyes shut, how long can you stay? 15 minutes as best? Too much? Sorry. No, because we're all vexing. This mind is always looking for something to eat. It's like some children at home, always looking for something to eat. Something to stuff down their throats. And if they walk past the fridge, something's gone missing. Like that, this mind, if it walks past a sight, then it's taken it in. It's gulped it down before you know it. So the mind is always vexing. We used to go and do sermons at the Valikada prison. So one day I did this sermon. I think after that they didn't ask me to come. I said, this is what I said. I said, I'm going to show you a way whereby some of the punishments that you get given will no longer be a punishment. Because sometimes the punishments that they give at the prison is putting people into dark rooms with no contact with the outside world. It's just a dark room. They get given a meal, sometimes a very bland meal. It's not tasty as you might find it. So it's just a meal that helps them sate the hunger, a drink of water, and that's all it is. There's no TV, there's no newspaper, no magazines to read, nothing like that. You can't hear anything, it's just pitch black and then pin drop silence, nothing else. So these are some of the ways that people are punished, right? For some crimes that they commit. So I said, I'm going to show you a way, if you follow which, that punishment will no longer be a punishment. This is the teaching of the Buddha. Because why is that a punishment? Just ask yourself. Why is being put away in a dark room a punishment? It's only a punishment to whom? Yes, a mind which likes to see things. When is pin drop silence a punishment? To a mind that wants to hear sounds, that's a punishment. But if you have a mind that has no desire to see things, if you have a mind that has no desire to hear things, now is that a punishment? No. Now it's no longer a punishment. For as long as your physical vexations can be satisfied, how? Hungry, I need food. Sick, I need medicine. I need a shelter and I need clothes. Well, they get given all of those things. But the punishment is not that. The punishment is no sights, no sounds, no smells. That's all. But if you have a mind that does not seek these things, how is it any longer a punishment? So I said, there's a way you can do that. And that is by ridding yourself of attachment. And I will show you how to do it. They asked us not to come anymore. What can I do? I can only teach the Buddha's teaching, and his doctrine is, how do you put a stop to these mental vexations? Because I explained to those those prison inmates, right? Inmates, yeah. The prison inmates that, you think that being stuck in a prison is a punishment. You should see what it's like on the other side. You should see what it's like on the other side. The things that people get up to these days. You're safe. People out there, it's a struggle for survival. You get given 3 square meals, right? No one here has to pay any bills to be here. But people on the other side of this wall, guess what? They have to pay bills. They have to earn a living. You get one for free. I said, in some senses, you and I are very much alike. You're wearing white, I'm wearing red, but that's pretty much the only difference. You get a free meal, I get a free meal. You get free shelter, I get free shelter. You get free medicine, I get free medicine. You get free clothes, I get free clothes. You don't get to watch TV, I don't watch TV. You don't read newspapers, well, neither do I. Right? You don't listen to the radio, well, some of them do, but I don't want to, so I don't. So you and I are much the same. People on the outside are trying to become like me. People on the outside, after they've heard what I have to say, they want to become like me. You're already there. Come to think of it, no surprise. They said, don't come again. This is what I'm saying. People can vex you if you have these pleasure buttons. If you are attached to anything, whatever it might be, then people can push those buttons. So having attachment is a very, very dangerous thing. If you're attached to your child, all that is needed to make you go insane is a kidnapping. Yes or no? Someone takes away your child. Now? That's it. You'll go insane. You'll go mad. You'll lose your mind. Why? Attached to your child. You're attached to your house. All that's required is arson. Someone sets your house on fire. That's it. You're attached to your car. No? You're attached to your jewelry, your watch, your phone, your wallet, your necklace. You name it. You know all the things you're attached to. Why did you attach yourself to them? Like I said, did you marry your husband because he's a man? No. You married him because you found him good looking. There was always a why. This is why you attached to the what. What did you attach to? Husband. Why? Now you have a whole host of reasons. Take away the why, you will not have attached yourself to him. Simple example. You have flowers at home. Beautiful flowers. Why do you like those flowers? Because they're flowers or because they're beautiful? Why do you have them at home? Is it because they're flowers or because they're beautiful? Beautiful. What is beauty? What is beauty? Pleasure. Pleasure that you receive pleasure that you experience as a result of being relieved from vexation through your eye is what we call as beauty. Because beauty can never be in a flower. Otherwise, everyone would find the same flower beautiful. But people like different types of flowers. Some like roses. Others like tulips. Others like daffodils. Why? You ask one person, why do you like this flower? Because they're beautiful. Why don't you like roses? Well, I don't find them very pretty at all, actually. If a rose is pretty, then everyone would find the rose pretty. Yes or no? So it's very subjective, is it not? If it's subjective, then beauty is not in the rose. Then beauty is in the mind. So why does the mind find a rose beautiful? Because the mind is vexing. The mind is attached to the sight of that flower. Because it's beautiful. Someone said one day, roses are beautiful. Now you went looking for them. Looking for something is a very vexatious process. No one likes to look for something. Do you like looking for something? Or do you like finding it? Which do you like? Looking or finding? Finding. No one likes looking. Looking. The reason you find finding pleasurable is because looking is vexatious. It's like when you book a hotel. Right? You go on TripAdvisor, you go on hotel.com or whatever site you go on, Agoda or whatever you go to. Right? You go looking for these hotels. You want to find the best one that's closest to your, wherever you want to go, your attraction. You want to find the one that's closest, that's 5-star, cheapest, right? You find all these requirements that you have. Then you start looking. And as you keep looking, now you're vexing inside. Will I find it? Will I find it? Will I find it for the right price? And ultimately you find it. That same hotel, you just incidentally saw the other day as you were browsing the internet. But no connection to your requirement that day. But today, you see it. Today is the solution to a problem. Because it's the solution to a problem, you find it pleasurable. Why? A solution is pleasure because problem is vexation. Today is an answer to a question. That's why you find that answer pleasurable. Just think, children, people say, is a bundle of joy, right? This is my pleasure, children, right? Some parents, they have children, they never planned on having them. Mother becomes pregnant. Woman becomes pregnant. I didn't expect a child. Now, source of joy? No, source of intense agony, frustration, problems now, one after the other. But then there are others who want to have children but can't. Now they go through all types of procedures, and at the end of it, the woman becomes pregnant. Now, this pregnancy is a source of intense joy. Whereas on the other hand, for the other woman, this pregnancy is a source of intense pain. So how can a pregnancy become joyful or painful? Subjective, is it not? If you were looking for it, when you found it, that brings you joy. If you didn't want it, now you get it, now it brings you pain. So the same instant, the same situation, the same circumstances cannot be both at the same time. This is why I say it's subjective. Where there was a vexation, relief from that vexation is what brought us pleasure. Every single time. So I think last week I gave you a challenge. Do you remember that? Because last week I had a visit from my mother. Yes, do you remember? And I gave her a challenge. I gave her a challenge. I said, you go and find me one thing, just one, not two, two's too many. Just one thing that brings you pleasure without suffering, without relief from suffering. What did I promise her? To disrobe. I promised her, I will disrobe if you find me just one example of where you have experienced pleasure without suffering beforehand. I haven't heard from her since. She's probably still looking. Did you find any? Are you still looking? Yes, sir. Beg your pardon? Okay. Because the reason I said is, if you are able to find one, then I have come into the wrong practice. I'm wasting my time. I have sought refuge of the wrong person. Then the Buddha is not who I should be seeking refuge in. If you can find one source of pleasure which is not relief from vexation, relief from suffering, then the Buddha is not who we should be seeking refuge in. The reason I have sought refuge in the Buddha is because there is really, this pleasure is nothing but a veil of ignorance, nothing else. But you have to, it's one thing for me to be saying these things. It's one thing for you to just come along and listen to these sermons and I get it, okay, fine, interesting, okay, let's move on. Please don't make that the outcome of these sessions. I really can't emphasize it enough. I hope you're doing the things that I am asking you to do, which is reflecting on these things after you leave this place. Every day after I talk to our young monks at the monastery, so every day I have a session with them and I talk to them, I give them advice for the next 24 hours, what they should be doing. Every day I tell them, young monks, whenever you feel pleasure, you should feel the living daylights. That should scare the living daylights out of you. Wherever you sense pleasure, you should feel like you've just been struck with lightning. If you feel pleasure, it's not pain that we need to worry about. It's pleasure that we need to worry about. Why? Because that is the why. Did you understand what I just said? Why should we worry about pleasure? Because that is the why. That is the why because of which you attach to the what. It's because of pleasure you attach yourself to sights, sounds, smells, taste, touch. And with attachment to sight, sound, smells, taste and touch, now you need eyes, ears, nose, tongue and a body to experience the things that you think bring you pleasure. Therefore, this is your cause to be reborn again. This is your reason for reincarnation. Because you are still looking for sources of pleasure which can only be brought to you through your eyes, ears, nose, tongue and body. Remember, it's not the body that's vexing. It's not the eye or the nose or the tongue or your nose that's vexing. It's the mind that's vexing. And these are just slaves. Your eyes and ears and nose and tongue and body are just slaves to your mind. The mind is being fooled. That's all it is. The mind has been fooled. It's been tricked. So all you need to do is show right and wrong. Show the mind that it's been fooled. Once you convince the mind, hey, you've just been fooled, get out of this. You're mad to think that there's pleasure in the outside world. Now the mind will come to its senses. It doesn't happen overnight. Because remember, this foolery has been going on for many eons. Throughout samsara it's been going on. But now at least if you understand that, pleasure is not there in the outside world, it's just relief from vexation that we experience, then now what you need to do on a day-to-day basis is sit your mind down and then teach it. Like a mother, like a father teaching a child. Puta, what you're doing is wrong. You have been fooled. That girl you're thinking is worth going out with, no, she's fooling you. She's sleeping with every guy in town. You just don't know it. That boy you're going out with, he's a freelancer. You should know it. Come to your senses. So like a mother, like a father, showing your child right from wrong, you just have to show your mind right from wrong. So I emphasize again, you have to put this into practice. I'm not going to be here forever. Sometimes I give our Swami Nuhan says the karmasthana. I call it the hisputue karmasthana, the empty chair. Would you like to hear it? The empty chair, karmasthana. So where we have the Bodhisattva statue, this is where we do our morning meditation. So what we do is we usually bring a chair and we put it there by the statue, and a senior monk would come and sit down and he would give us a karmasthana. So then we start practicing. We contemplate on the karmasthana. So he gives us instruction and guidance. One day we were waiting for this senior monk to come along and sit down, and he never came. So now everyone's waiting for a karmasthana. So I realized that everyone's tensed up now. Everyone's waiting for a karmasthana. So I said, right, let me do this. I was just sat wherever I was. I didn't go and take the seat. But I said, that empty chair, that is your karmasthana. So everyone's thinking, what? Empty chair, how can that be a karmasthana? I said it's a karmasthana because usually you expect someone to come and sit down there and give you instruction. But today, there is nobody to give you instruction. I said contemplate on the fact that today there is nobody to give you instruction. Are you prepared for that? Are you prepared for the day where there's going to be nobody to give you instruction? For that, you have to be able to walk this path yourself. If you haven't become a sotapanna, then you're in a very precarious position. Why? You need someone to give you instruction. So when the chair becomes empty, there's no teacher, there's no master, then what's going to happen to you? Ask yourself. This is the karmasthana of the empty chair karmasthana. So something really interesting happened a little while later, about half an hour later. Someone came and took away the chair. So everyone's looking at the chair and they were doing a karmasthana and someone took away the chair. And I was like, hey, bring that back. So I said, no. This is the next stage of your karmasthana. The Nochaya karmasthana. Because one day there's going to be no teacher, but there'll still be the Dhamma. But another day, there's not going to be no teacher, and there's not going to be the Dhamma either. Because the Dharmasana, right? That was taken away. So, the Dharmasana was also taken away. No more Dhamma. We can only do this while we are in the dispensation of this Buddha. Only 2,500 years left. That's a pretty long time, isn't it? Dream on. One day, the era of the Buddha is going to pass away as well. Then we'll have to wait until Maitri Buddha comes along. But if any of you are thinking, hey, that's not so bad, I'll just wait for Maitri Buddha. Remember, you have all come past how many Buddhas now? An infinite number of Buddhas. Every time you thought, I'll just wait for the next one. Every single birth, you just waited for the next bus. Every time you just waited for the next bus. One bus came along, no, I'll just wait for the next one. That went past by. I'll just wait for the next one. That also went past by. What makes you think, when you've come past an infinite number of Buddhas, and every time you decided, now I'll just wait for the next one, what makes you think that in the next Buddha's time you're going to do it? Are you getting my point? What makes you think, if you've come past an infinite number of Buddhas already, what makes you think infinite plus one, that's the one you're going to get it done in? So the next Buddha's era is not when you should all try and attain Nibbana. It's this one. When the path to Nibbana is so clear, while the Dhamma is laid out there for you, so clear, crystal clear path. Ragakke, dveshakke, mohakke. The extinguishing of raga, dvesha, moha, desire, aversion and delusion. In other words, the state of mind where there is zero vexation. Vexation is caused by nothing other than attachment. Attachment is caused by nothing other than ignorance. Ignorance of what? Ignorance of the whys. You know the oldest list of whys? Flower, beautiful. Oh, sight, beautiful. Sound, what's the word for that? Pleasant, thank you. Taste, let's go with delicious. Smell, go pleasant again. Pleasant smell, yeah. Touch, pleasurable, okay. So these are the whys. If not for beautiful, pleasant, yummy, delicious, pleasurable, you wouldn't attach to the sight, sound, smell, taste and touch. So where you ought to tackle this problem is not sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. It's beautiful, pleasant, pleasurable, yummy, delicious. That's where you need to tackle this problem. Why do you find a flower beautiful? Because a flower cannot be beautiful. How can you measure the beauty of a flower? What instrument is there to measure it? Is there one? No. Why? Because beauty is not real. That's why you can't measure it. You can measure the height of it, you can measure the weight of it, you can measure the color of it, but you can't measure the beauty of it. The only thing that can measure the beauty of something is the mind, but an ignorant one at that. Take away ignorance, you no longer find it beautiful. So the scale of beauty is ignorance. The scale of pleasurable is ignorance. The scale of pleasant is ignorance. This is the yardstick. Ignorance. Let me give you this as a final, I wouldn't say advice. It's not nice to give advice, is it? Is it good to give advice? Yeah? Okay. Think about all the people that you associate today. All the people that you know, all the people that have an influence on your lives. Right? Parents, spouses, children, friends, family, extended family. All of these people, they have an influence on you. As well as people you don't even know yet. Like as you walk down the street, there's a billboard. Someone's influencing you, but you don't even know them. You're going to do your groceries. And remember the fashion store that has a mannequin? You don't even know the guy, but is he not already influencing you? Influencing you. Why? Hey, beautiful, come on in. Adverts on TV. You don't even know who's playing those adverts, but are you not being influenced? Can you put a number on the number of people that are influencing you? Can you say it's this many people are influencing me right now? No, you're being influenced by an infinitely large population out there. All of these people pulling you to the world and tying you down to the world in ways that you can never imagine. In ways that you can't even begin to untangle yourself. They're tying you down, knotting you up in ways that you can never imagine of untangling yourself. Compared to those people and the population of people trying to tie you down, knot you down and entangle yourself to this world, how many people today are there in your life who are influencing you to get out of this place? To get out of this world? To free yourself from these entanglements? To free yourself from this snare? Less than a handful? Am I right in saying that? Less than a handful. So think about how much you are being influenced to entangle yourself and how much you are being influenced to disentangle yourself, to remove yourself from this snare. It's no wonder that as every day goes by, you're being tied down day after day in this snare in ways that you can't even think of. Because the influence you're getting is manifold. The influence you're getting in terms of tying yourself down to this world is manifold compared to the influence you're getting to get yourself out of here. The reason I say this is because if you have such people in your life who are influencing you, who are inspiring you to get out of here, dare I say, these are the most precious people in your life. They are certainly in mine. The people who encourage me on a daily basis, who influence me and inspire me on a daily basis and show me why being attached to this world is nothing other than a source of pain and suffering, endless torture. People who show me this and inspire me and influence me, get out of here while you still can. These are the most precious people in my life. These are the people I value the most in my life because these are the Satpurusha. Ask yourself, who do you value most in your life? If the answer is your children, if the answer is your parents, if the answer is your friends, your co-workers, your boss, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, then good luck. You must do this for yourself. One day a man says to another man, "Hey, buddy, I'm going to look after you. I like you, so I'm going to look after you." Like you might say to your children, to your family, "I'm going to look after you." But this other man, he was a very wise man. He said in return, "Don't look after me. Look after yourself for me." Don't look after me. You look after yourself for me. I'll look after myself for you. Because who knows yourself best? You. So how can you get someone else to look after you? you have to look after yourself. So absolutely. Value the Satpurusha Sevana that you get. The moral, the noble association that you receive, because you're not going to get it forever. But do it, not because they're nice to hang around with. Do it so you can find your salvation. Do it for yourself. Do it for myself. So last week I promised you that I was going to give you all the opportunity to witness the good efforts of my young novice monks and some of their hard work. Remember? So, about 3 weeks ago, we had a small program that we had at the monastery where our young monks, over the course of 3 weeks, were asked to. So I think I told you a couple of weeks ago, I have this program that I do. It's for personality development and helping our young monks find their feet. They're going through a very, what's the best way to put it, tumultuous time in their life. They're going through puberty. Let's just put it that way. Right? It's teenagers, right? So just because you don a robe doesn't make you a saint. So what I'm trying to do is, as a responsible adult, or trying to be a responsible adult, is to show them ways and means in which to focus their energy on serving others. And they found it very interesting, and they had a really good time doing it. So over the course of 3 weeks, they were asked to come up with innovative ways to demonstrate this doctrine of attachment, vexation, relief from vexation and pleasure. So you're lucky, those who have come along today for the first time, because you're going to see an exhibit that's going to actually help you visualize what it is that we're trying to explain to you. Now I must say that, please do remember that there are young monks between the ages of, I think 12, or actually 11 and 16, and most of them have never given a presentation in their lives, let alone a presentation in English. So they have gone through a lot of hard work to practice their English more than anything else, right? So you have to be patient with them. And what I would encourage you to do is to pay good attention, because it's not whether they use the right words that's important here. It's learning from what they have been able to create. Because their understanding of the Dhamma may be far beyond yours. But their mastery over the language may not be so much. But don't let that be an obstacle to you experiencing what they have to show you and learning from it. Okay? So, we'll do that after we have concluded the sermon, because otherwise it's just going to be a waste of time for our online listeners. They're not going to be able to see anything. And perhaps we'll record it and then make it available to our online listeners in case they have already started vexing about it. So they have prepared themselves to present that to you today, and I repeat, give them your fullest support. They're your children just as much as anybody's. Right? We are all your children ultimately. You feed us. The last time someone fed me, that was my mother. That was my father. So you are our parents after all. So they may have mistakes here and there, but don't let that hinder your experience, and give them your fullest support while you watch what they have to show you. So we'll do that after we conclude the sermon. Okay? Is the Arya Maitri in Sinhala today? Okay. So we'll do the Arya Maitri and we'll conclude the sermon. Mamada siyalu loka සියලු සත්වයෝ සංසාර දාහයෙන් මිදෙත්වා සංසාර රෝගයෙන් මිදෙත්වා සංසාර ගින්නෙන් මිදෙත්වා සංසාර අඳුරෙන් මිදෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා මමද සියලු ලෝක සියලු සත්වයෝ රාග බන්ධනයෙන් මිදෙත්වා ද්වේෂ බන්ධනයෙන් මිදෙත්වා මෝහ බන්ධනයෙන් මිදෙත්වා මාර බන්ධනයෙන් මිදෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා මමද සියලු ලෝක සියලු සත්වයෝ ජාති ගින්නෙන් මිදෙත්වා ජරා ගින්නෙන් මිදෙත්වා ව්‍යාධි ගින්නෙන් මිදෙත්වා මරණ ගින්නෙන් මිදෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා මමද සියලු ලෝක සියලු සත්වයෝ ශෝක ගින්නෙන් මිදෙත්වා පරිදේවයෙන් මිදෙත්වා දුක්ඛ ගින්නෙන් මිදෙත්වා දෝමනස්සයෙන් මිදෙත්වා උපායාසයෙන් මිදෙත්වා යම් පිච්ඡං ලබති තම්පි දුක්ඛයෙන් මිදෙත්වා සංඛිත්තේන පංචෝපාදානස්කන්ධයෙන් මිදෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා කාම ලෝක අනාතයි එයින් මිදෙත්වා රූප ලෝක අනාතයි එයින් මිදෙත්වා අරූප ලෝක අනාතයි එයින් මිදෙත්වා සියලු ලෝක අනාතයි එයින් මිදෙත්වා අතහැරීම නාතයි අතහැරීම වෙත්වා නොඇල්ම නාතයි නොඇල්ම වෙත්වා මිදීම නාතයි මිදීම වෙත්වා නිවනම නාතයි නිවනම 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 වෙත්වා. Okay. So before we conclude the sermon then, let's take a moment to transfer merits that we have all acquired today and transfer those merits to all those beings who are looking to rejoice in these merits, so that those beings who have been born in the woeful planes may be able to redeem themselves from those woeful planes. And for those beings who are in the blissful planes, if they are lacking in merit, in order that they may be able to comprehend this Dhamma, may these merits be able to be transferred, may they be able to accept and acknowledge these merits, and through the course of doing that, be able to have a state of mind through which they are able to understand the Dhamma. First and foremost, let us take a moment to remind ourselves that it is because of the Supreme Buddha that we have the gift of Dhamma today. It is because he sacrificed himself over many countless births, over many yawns in samsara. Innumerable times, immeasurable times, he sacrificed himself for the salvation of all beings, that we have the gift of Dhamma today. Let us also take a moment to remind ourselves of the Bhikkhu, Bhikkhunis, Upasaka, Upasikas throughout the world, who tirelessly make every effort in every waking moment to attain the bliss of Nibbana, as well as to disseminate this teaching for the liberation of all sentient beings, as well as the Bhikkhu, Bhikkhunis, Upasaka, Upasikas who sacrificed and dedicated their lives to protecting and preserving the Dhamma all the way down from the time of the Buddha to us. It is because of them that today we have the Tripitaka, which we can study, comprehend, and help us attain the bliss of Nibbana. So may they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. If any of them have today been born in the woeful planes, may through the power of these merits they be able to redeem themselves from those woeful planes, be born in the blissful planes, and may through the power of these merits they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's also take a moment to transfer merits to all members of the Mahasangha, wherever in the world they may be, the Mahanayakas, the Anunayakas. It is because of them today that we have the Sambuddha Shasana. It is they who have dedicated their lives to protecting and preserving the Sambuddha Shasana, through which today you and I are able to seek the salvation that we so need in order to redeem ourselves from the shackles of samsara. So may they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. Especially taking a moment to remind ourselves of the members of the Mahasangha, the Bhikkhus and the Mehenin Mahansis who may be resident in your local temples and your local nunneries. Although you have today come along to this monastery and listened to this sermon, made offerings to the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha, perhaps even offered alms, do not forget for a moment that it is the members of the Mahasangha who are resident in your local temples, in your local nunneries, who have always been by your side through thick and thin, come rain or shine. It is they who have always been by your side to give you blessings and also to give your children Dhampasana education and also to help shape and guide your lives in the difficult times that you might have found yourselves. So may they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. May through the power of these merits they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transform to the Devas, Brahmas, spirits, demons and the dead that we invited at the start of this sermon, as well as all those ancestors who you might have predeceased, who might have predeceased us, those beings who will have helped us innumerable times in samsara. Any help, support or assistance that they might have offered us, extended to us, let us be grateful for that, and in return let us transfer the merits that we have all acquired today to them. If any of them have today been born in the woeful plains, may through the power of these merits they be able to redeem themselves from those woeful plains. May through the power of these merits they be able to be born in the blissful plains and be able to abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to the members of the armed forces as well as the police force who saved our country from a 30-year-old long war. It is thanks to them that today we are able to live in peace and harmony despite our differences, despite our diversities. It is because they sacrificed their lives for our comfort, for our well-being, that today we are able to dedicate time like this to listen to the Dhamma in peace, with the peace of mind that we are able to. May they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. Let us also transfer merits to all those men and women who might have lost their lives in natural calamities such as the tsunamis and natural disasters such as the tsunamis and so on and so forth, not just in Sri Lanka but also in other parts of the world like in earthquakes and things like that. They might have been friends and family or might have been acquaintances, as well as those who might not have been friends, family or acquaintances in this birth, but do not forget that every man and woman in this that you might have ever come across has always been a mother or father in this infinitely long journey in samsara. They have all been a mother, they have all been a father to us in this long journey in samsara. So let us all transfer merits to all of them. If any of them have today been born in the woeful plains, may through the power of these merits they be able to redeem themselves from those woeful plains, be born in the blissful plains. May through the power of these merits they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to all those men and women who might have helped make this event a success by inviting you to be here today, or perhaps by offering you a transport, or perhaps by arranging this venue so that you were able to listen to it in the comforts that you were. Perhaps by offering you a glass of water, perhaps by ushering you to a seat, or perhaps by decorating this stage as an offering to the Dhamma. Whatever way, shape or form anyone might have helped you to be here today, perhaps it has been members of your family who have relieved you of your duties and responsibilities so that you were able to be here today, by looking after your children, by looking after your friends, your family and so on and so forth. Or perhaps those of your co-workers who are today looking after your duties and responsibilities at the workplace. It is thanks to them that today you have been able to be here today, come along and listen to this sermon. So may they all rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. May they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today, and may through the power of these merits they abstain from non-meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And finally, may through the course of all the merits, may through the merits that we have all acquired today through the course of this sermon, as well as the offerings that you have made to the Buddha, to the Dhamma, to the Sangha, may through the power of all the merits that we have all acquired today in listening to this sermon, in preaching this sermon, and also making and contributing in any way, shape or form to the success of this sermon, success of this event, energize and empower many hundreds and thousands of people, men and women just like yourselves throughout the world who are aspiring to attain the bliss of Nibbana. May they all be able to achieve the goal that they so aim and strive to do so, and may through them we be able to witness the advent of many hundreds of thousands of Arahants on this blessed land in our very lives itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And finally, may through the course of all the merits that we have all been able to acquire today, you and I, as well as anyone and everyone who might have helped and supported us with this, be able to become one of those Arahatun Mahanses, one of those Arahat Mihinin Mahanses in this very birth itself, in the era of the Gautama Supreme Buddha itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. The members of the Mahasangha will now transfer their blessings to you. Raga ginnen midetva Dvesha ginnen midetva Moha ginnen midetva Nibbana parama sukhayen සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා මමද සියලු ලෝක සියලු සත්වයෝ නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා. තුනුරුවනේ සූවිසි අනන්ත මහා ගුණ බෙලෙන් සියලු ලෝක සියලු සත්වයෝම නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා. සාදු සාදු සාදු. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the fires of desire. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the fires of aversion. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the fires of delusion. May I and all beings in all worlds attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. May the noble triple gem be with you forever. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.